Hi, my name is Jessica Pape, and I am here to talk about managing cystic acne using herbs, a case report. I met with a client, a 28-year-old Caucasian man, whom I know from a friend of mine. His girlfriend is my tattoo artist, and he's a tree trimmer and works on the eastern shore of Maryland. He approached me initially because he had some cystic acne on his neck, behind the ears, behind the chest, and on the face that he was unable to resolve through conventional treatment. He was prescribed antibiotics by a doctor but saw no improvement. He had experimented with using tea tree oil, the essential oil, topically on the affected areas, and what he noticed is that while the cysts themselves would recede, they never completely went away. So he looked to me to help him in seeing if they could be completely resolved. Over the course of 3 sessions, we started in the beginning of April, or started at the end of April, and we ended just recently, mid-June. The client reported incredible improvement over his skin. Reductions in the frequency of acne breakouts and the resolution and significant reduction of the cysts themselves. I saw the client about a week, last week actually, for a festival that he was attending with his girlfriend, who was there to do tattoos, and the results were amazing. I wish I'd have thought to take pictures, because he really showed incredible improvement. His confidence level was much higher. He walked around without a shirt on, and which is pretty big considering that he had a very large cyst on his chest. I didn't actually see the cyst, but his girlfriend told me that it was really amazing what a difference we made together in our partnership. So the first session, he didn't complete the paperwork on time. He had a month to do it, and he didn't. So he showed up on site and had to do it all. So we only met for an hour, but I had already known what his reasons for coming in were. So we started with the tincture, and the tincture was Oregon grapefruit, yellow dock root, milk thistle, licorice, and poke root. And I had him taking 4 mils of that twice a day. About a week after starting to take the tincture, he already noticed an improvement, and in fact sent me a private message on Facebook, just excited. He was starting to see improvement, reduction in the size and the swelling of those areas that were affected by the cysts. We met again in our second visit, was about a month later, 5/18, and he reported he came in. That was another visit where he showed up into the clinic setting at the Natural Care Center. He reported reduced swelling in some areas. He hadn't been taking the dosages quite as often as he needed to, but he was taking them. Like, I think he was taking only 1 dose and maybe not the full 2 doses. But what he did notice is that there was a decrease in frequency overall. We also got into a little bit more of some of the other symptomology, like what was going on with his digestion and how his bowels were functioning, and how much water he was drinking, things like that. And he reported having some gas, and I think that was where with the next formula, I decided that I gave him 2. I gave him a tincture and a tea. The tea was mostly to address the fact that he works outside a lot. He's not drinking a lot of water. He's not eating a lot of food. His appetite isn't really that big. If you saw the gentleman, you would know that he was very, very thin, slight of build, tall and thin, with long hair, kind of stringy. And so the tea was prescribed, and that included hibiscus, lemon balm, dandelion leaf, holy basil, nettles, calendula, orange peel, and stevia. And I wanted something that was nutritious and tasty and could be drunk hot or cold. He could make it as a sun tea that he could take with him and consume during the day because, again, he works outside as a tree trimmer. During the course of our conversations, the client reported having been exposed to Roundup, that he has to regularly apply that. And somewhere he did say that his acne tends to get worse in the summertime, and I think that's when we start to see more of those cysts that he mentioned. And so it's for all of those reasons that I just slightly modified his tincture formula, and the tincture formula was the Oregon grapefruit, the yellow dock, a Luthro to help with the energy levels because he was outside so much. The poke root I reduced from the first visit, and I also added cardamom to help with some of the gas and bloating that he was mentioning. His takeaways were to increase his vegetables in his diet so that he would have a little bit more fiber. We also talked about probiotics, either consuming a probiotic such as kefir, kimchi, yogurt, things like that, or just simply taking a capsule because as much as I hate to admit it, sometimes if you're not going to eat the yogurt, maybe you'll take the capsule instead. So he was charged with taking action on those areas, and so then we met again June 15th, again about a month later, and he loved the taste of the tea. He reported not making it quite as often at home, so I reminded him about how to make sun tea. He also mentioned about the tincture, that he was out of it. He said that the cysts on his face were almost completely gone. Now I should mention this last visit was supposed to be a Skype session, which the Skype was a fail. We had corresponded about it, and it wasn't until the very last minute that we were actually going to be contacting one another that he said that he in fact didn't have Skype. So and he was at his girlfriend's house, who doesn't have Wi-Fi access, which meant a little bit of a technology challenge when you're trying to physically look at somebody where you need to be able to see if they're showing improvement in their skin, and I couldn't do that. But he did report that in spite of not being able to physically see his face, that the cysts on his face were almost completely gone. He had them on his cheekbones. He also reported eating better, eating healthier. The cysts that had been there for 10 years were gone. And that to me, that was huge. That was absolutely huge. He had reported that he was drinking a lot more water, and he had reduced the sugar significantly. He was using honey. When we first started on our conversations together, he talked about drinking a lot of Mountain Dew and a lot of sodas and a lot of sweet tea. So this was big, honestly. He said that his acne had reduced significantly, and it just overall looked better. During some of our conversations, we talked about him using witch hazel to keep his skin clean and to use it behind the ears, and he said that the cysts behind the ears were pretty much gone. He reported that he was eating kefir, yogurt, and kombucha. I credit his girlfriend with this because she has a kombucha SCOBY at home that we joked about, and she's been a great influence in terms of his diet and setting a good example for him, which it looks like they spend a lot of time together on the weekends. And when I met them last week at the festival we all attended, I think he's actually going to be moving in with her, which will be huge for him because she has an excellent diet. and very clear skin. So he reported that the swelling of the cysts had gone down significantly. They were about a quarter of the size that they originally were, and that he was trying to stay hydrated at work. Still a bit of an issue. He bought a water filter, which he talked about drinking more filtered water. He also mentioned that he felt like he had some vitamin and mineral deficiencies, which I agreed with, and I said that is why I recommended the tea for you. And I think I mentioned that the tea contained hibiscus, lemon balm, dandelion leaf, holy basil leaf, nettle leaf, calendula, orange peel, and stevia. So I wanted something that was refreshing to him, that would be replenishing some of those vitamins and minerals that he might lose through sweat and manual labor. And then so I just did a refill on the tea, and for the tincture, I only made one final change, and that was the addition of the calamus root. He was a little, I'm going to use the word whiffy, kind of forgetful, not very chatty, and maybe he was distracted by something else going on in the home when we were talking. But it was one of those things that reminded me of so many of the stoners that I've met over the course of my life that are just, they're not that grounded. So I wanted to add calamus root for that. And after talking with the supervisor on duty that day, she suggested that I had initially thought of the calamus root because of what I know in the treatment for drug addiction. I remember that from our visit with Paul Strauss. And I also remember that it can stimulate the appetite, which he reported is not having much of. So I thought maybe we could nudge that in the right direction and see what could happen. The supervisor suggested that calamus was an excellent idea because, she said that Seven Song had seen uses it a lot in treating hippies, and he definitely has a bit of the hippie vibe. From our conversations, he's a heavy marijuana user and, smokes a lot of cigarettes. And so I thought, yeah, we'll go with that. So that's pretty much a very, very short version of what we discussed over the course of our 3 sessions. I will say that the client has improved tremendously. And even while I was there on site, I had seen, from our conversations, he was very happy, much more confident. He's always been friendly, but it was just really good to see him, doing his thing. And so that's about it. So thank you for listening to me ramble and scratching my eyebrow and whatnot. And I look forward to I look forward to the next learning opportunity. Thanks.